All my other work's done, and now we're down to two significantly different shaft pulls. We're going to get a shaft out of this, and we're going to get a shaft out of that. Stay tuned, and we're going to show you how it's done for both of them. Welcome back to the McGolf shop, and it is ebb and flow here at the end of November, beginning of December, and we've had a bunch of work just for repairs, and I'm going to show you. If you look down, see there? 2 drivers, 2 wedges, and another broken bore through. So I had to get all that done, and I did this. Okay, that was a D300 set of irons with new Acura I-70 shafts in them, and they're for a guy that used to umpire in the Olympics for baseball. So well done, Don. They'll be ready tomorrow. So what are we going to do again? We are going to pull a shaft from this guy. If you can read all that, this is a Callaway Warbird Great Big Bertha Ruger Titanium. Now a little history lesson. What is Ruger Titanium? Well, the Ruger company, the ones that make the guns, made these club heads. And back in the day, this was one big Mac Daddy type club. Now it looks like a fat 3-wood. Alright, what's special about this? Well, if you look, it's got a painted face. It's got a painted back. There's no hosel, and it's a bore through. So what are the precautions that we want to talk about here? Well, number one, how do you pull it out without mashing everything? Okay. Now this one was actually kind of straightforward. What we're going to do is we're going to heat up this ferrule, and then we're going to pull that out, and then we're just going to go right up against that and pull. Now what we don't want to do here is burn the paint. Right? This thing is in really great condition. So we don't want to burn the paint. So how are we going to do that? Well, we'll find out here in just a minute. Then on our other club, this one is a Great Big Bertha 454 titanium. And this is what they did to fix the issue with that smaller ferrule. They put this in here because lots and lots of shafts were breaking, and they were breaking right there. Why? Because that was the weakest point, and people were actually hitting it with the golf ball, and there wasn't a whole lot of grabbing the club, even if it was a bore through itself. Hence, now the clubs get bigger, and it's still a bore through, but what they did is they reinforced it with a special kind of ferrule that actually sets up into here. And this is a different kind of a pull too, so we'll show you that, because I'm going to be doing a shaft swap and then a refinish. So let's get started. So how are we going to do this? Well, like we always do, we use the butane torch. Butane torch, cooler heat, more precise application. And all we're going to do is take it off around here. Okay, so we're going to do that first. And we don't want to burn this paint because this is what we want back. You see it starting to smoke because it doesn't take a whole lot to get this guy soft and off of there. Alright. Like to use my knife, and I get right in underneath there and I pull down, and that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to drop it out of this camera so I can make sure I do it right. Alright, there we go, got her out. And just pull that guy out really far down. Alright, so it's gone, nice. So, now what are we going to do? I'm going to move you over here, and you're going to look kind of down the other way, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to pull this out. So stay tuned. Okay, so with this thing, we're going to go up and down. What we want to do, if you look here, see where that comes through? We want to, basically this is a really fat hosel, for lack of a better term. So what you want to do is come through here, get around here, and then just a little bit on the top to prevent from pulling it. No more than a minute, and you just kind of watch. Okay, now I'm going to put it right in my shaft puller, and I don't like how that fits, so I have yet another piece, and I've showed you this on another shaft pull, and this kind of gives me a buffer so I keep the paint nice and alive. So there you go, we got it pulled out. Now, no burn on the paint. Alright, looks good on the top. And we'll clean out the hosel real quick. Again, we use the brush. There we go. So that's ready for a new shaft. Now we need to go on to the other one. Oh, wait a minute, I want to show you this. More important part is, because this is the shaft we really want, no burning on there, no scars, no tears. And while it's nice and warm, we'll give it the old school scrape. Basically what that does for me is it cleans it out without having to take any more metal off. Okay. So now we're back to this guy. Alright, now this one's a little bit, well, about in the same purpose really. I was going to say trickier, and it can be. The reason why is this is longer, but the best part is it's not painted now. So we go through here, go through around here, go through here, and then this time we go through here. This is where another painted surface right here. Okay, right in this area. We don't want that. The other part is, you see that dot right there? That is a port that gets you into the head where they would put rattle stop or swing weight stuff. And eventually this is going to pop up, so we're going to have to do a little refinishing on that, so you get to see some of that as well. Alright, let's try that. Now, on this one, we have to use this little tool because it slips over the ferrule. Okay, so we have to use it there. It always looks easier when you have the right tools. That little piece, this little piece here is a doggone saver. And the funny part is, you know, I don't know anybody who makes that thing anymore. That was a special make by a machinist on the East Coast, and he only made a few. And now that, you know, we're doing things more with tips. That much like doing whipping on a club, doing bore throughs is going to become a lost art. Okay, just like when we do anything else on a hosel, we want to make sure that's nice and clean on the inside. Remember that hole I was telling you about? See how it raised up a little bit? I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, it raised up. So well, we now have it nice and clean. So next, I have a replacement ferrule. Here's what was so important about those. We have two kinds. If you see this kind, see it's more, we want to make sure that it actually fits in there, which it does. Okay. A lot of things, sometimes this particular club head actually came with a 350 shaft, and that's a 335 adapter, so we can put that in there. If this is one of those heads where it doesn't, I've got one that goes right in there. It's a little bit bigger. Okay, so we've got that. So it's the week of the bore throughs. I must have done about 3 or 4 of these this week. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to buff the top of this to make sure I take off some of there's like little bitty scratches. So like detailing a car, I'm going to take the scratches out. I'm going to clean up the face a little bit to make it look good. Kind of get around this end of, I'm going to get around this end of it and polish it up. I'm going to get all this, and then I'm going to clean this up. And then we're going to do some assembly. So give me a minute and we'll come right back. So I got it polished. Nice and shiny, nice and clean face, and the sides there. I left the bottom done because we do something special, and you have to see that here in a little bit. Alright, so we took the shaft out of this club. That's this one. It is the Callaway Golf BBUL Firm Flex. And he asked me to pull it out of there and put it into this one. Okay. So you think, oh well, they're both bore through, be easy, just get right in there and it'd be good to go, right? And it looks pretty good, except for it's not perfect. All right, what happens is the front of it gets pulled out. So and if you look at the inside, I got to put a shaft pin in there. So get my shaft pin. What is a shaft pin? That is a shaft pin. There's two kinds, one for graphite shafts, one for steel shafts. The thinner one is for graphite because they have a smaller hole. What we're going to do is we're just going to glue it in there like that. We're going to lop it off, and then we're going to finish it in the head. So what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of approximate right about there. So I got to take off a little extra paint so that the whole thing will stick, and then we're going to glue it together. So I'm going to do this real quick. Alright, so we got that taken care of. So what I like doing to make sure that the ferrules don't move is I'll put some glue on here, and this goes over, and I'll show you that when I'm all done. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to move you. So now we're going to put the glue on. Okay, whenever you get glue on yourself, you want to immediately wipe it off. And if you can, just go wash it off, because this stuff goes everywhere and you just never know about it. So you take that in mind. There's more of that glue. See, it popped up in there, so now we're going to wipe that off so I don't have to keep doing this. That cleans that up. So I am tapping this because if you look in there, see, it's not level yet, and if I push it, it'll go too far, and bringing it back is a real pain. Alright, for the sake of showing you, this is what I'm doing. Alright, so it looks like I've got it pretty close in there, but when I do this, the tip of this is sticking out and the bottom's not quite there, so I'm going to have to stick it out a little bit more. There. So now I got it out just a little bit. It's nice and flush actually on the bottom, but you see if you can, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it, maybe from that side. Right there. See that? That's sticking up. So that's about as good as that's going to get, and I'll have to take off the rest. So now we're going to glue all this thing together. Now I put it in the back side there so I can make sure I got glue all the way up through this head, because sometimes when you insert it, all that glue gets taken away. More of my 2x2 cloths. This thing is pretty much the workhorse of the shop for cleaning. You clean all the excess from on the head because we don't want any on the paint. Okay. Now yet another trick. It leaves a little bit of a smudge, and I'm not big on smudges. So I take just a dab of acetone. Just a dab, I don't get it real wet. And just a real quick wipe. And get it off of there. Now, and I can clean my hands with it from all that other stuff. Alright, so now I've got a nice clean ferrule combination. And then what I do is I turn it. I'm going to wipe it down just a little bit to make sure I got it above the level, which I do. Alright, next. So anytime you do gluing and you need epoxy, you have to have some rough surfaces, both on the outside and the inner side where this thing goes. So that's been roughed up previously from having the other pin in it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the sander, and that way those ridges that the sander makes, the epoxy has something to grab a hold of so it doesn't pull out. So give me a minute. So all I'm doing is I'm really just roughing it up with a sander. There's no specific size or anything like that. And I get some more epoxy. Make sure I get 100% of the way around. And then when I put it in here, I spin it just like I'm doing a club head to make sure I get 100% coverage. Tip number two. Tap that sucker in. Okay, so like you've seen in every other one that I've done. There we go. I'm going to do another double wipe just to make sure. And we're good to go. And then I tape it just to make sure nothing slides. And we set it in the playing position up on my rack. And tomorrow we do the finishing and the gripping, and away it goes back to our customer. Welcome back. It's the next morning, and it's been 12 hours. So what you have to do first is check the epoxy. See the epoxy? See how it's still kind of shiny? It's in what it's called the gel time. The gel time is where you can work on the club without anything breaking, moving, that kind of stuff. That's where you want to be with this. Now, the cure time is when the thing's fully dry, you're ready to go, you can use it anytime you want. Now, when you use faster curing epoxies, you got the 5-minute, you got a 15-minute, and this is a 24-hour. Now, as the cure times get longer, the break point on the glue gets higher. So if you're a really high swing speed guy, a 5-minute glue probably is not where you want to be. Now, on the tour, they use a very quick epoxy, but they have a full-time guy there to help them out just in case something slips, falls, trips, or whatever. And they normally hit the middle of the club face, where most of us don't, and recreate some higher torques. So 24-hour cure. Now, just before, and I think it was because I just didn't turn on the camera, remember the tip pin that was sticking out of there? So, yeah. So what you can use is a back saw, and you can get right up close to it. If you're one of those guys that tries to get the shaft to just be perfect so you don't have to do any sanding, this is one really good way of doing it. The other most simple and a little bit rougher way, pliers. If you look in here at the bottom, right in here, that's a cutting area. You just get the tip pin in there, snaps right off. So now we're going to go take it to the my jet machine. We're going to finish this off, and we're going to polish it, and then we're going to regrip it. So I'm going to have to move you down. Alright, so what I have is the jet. It's an 8-inch bench grinder multi-tool. And what I have here is a 2-inch wide belt, and it comes with, you can put multiple belts on it, sander discs, these nylon discs, that kind of stuff. Typically, if I had a lot or I had metal to take out of here, I would put a sanding disc on here. But since I only have to do a little bit of light removal, I'm going to use this, and because I'm all about not trying to mark up this surface. Then when that's all done, I'm going to put this on the sisal wheel that's right next to it, and we're going to use some black rouge, and we're going to shine this thing up. So it's going to get kind of loud, but you'll kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. Now, if you get a look at that, see, I was also able to get the little dot that we talked about earlier all at the same time. And then honestly, it doesn't look bad. It kind of gave it a better shine than it had before, a little cleaner. But these things came shiny on the bottom, so we're going to deliver it back to Grant shiny. So, let me turn this thing over. We're going to put some black rouge on this, on my sisal wheel. I'm going to try and turn you over a little bit more. real question is, how did we do? Well, you tell me. Can you see all that? So we're going to go back and I'm going to put a little bit of glands wax on it, and then you'll see the final product. And there's the end product. Now we're going to go put the original grip back on it because the thing was brand spanking new. And now you have old school meets less old school. Looks really, really good. Grant, it'll be shipped out today, and you ought to get it in 2 days. Hopefully the Christmas rush doesn't get it. So let's go over a couple of things before I turn this off. Number one, when you go to pull this out, there's a tool that goes over top of it, a sleeve, and that's what presses up against the club in order not to scar the top of the head and allow you to pull this out so you can pull the bore through cleanly. Now, if you don't have that, you might be just regulated to just drilling, okay? Or you can heat it up and twist it and bust the shaft, and then you're drilling out, which is really ugly and really gets kind of itchy. So I would suggest the cleanest way possible. Now, we didn't put together the other one, okay? Didn't want that back together. Now, some of the important parts here is you see that, hopefully you can see that, there's grain on the bottom of this. So when you go to finish this one off in much the same variety as I did over here, but you've got to go with the grain so that it stays that way, otherwise it just gets uglier, okay? So you want to be able to, you can use emery cloth to shine it up. You can use a hard, like a nylon wheel, a hard nylon wheel like you see on like a 6-inch grinder, or you can use what I have. It's probably a little bit too big for this application, in which case I would probably just use the once I got it down close, I would start using the emery cloth, because it leaves that kind of a shine, you want it the same kind of finish. And that's the reason why we did this, because that was the kind of finish that this thing had when it was new. So, got to be careful when it's finished, and the biggest thing is that it not only looks nice and neat, but it feels nice and neat, okay? And we got rid of some scars on the top too, Grant, so when we polished it up, so that worked out pretty good. So we're going to put on your original Callaway grip. We're going to put a few rolls of tape underneath of it because that's what was there when we took it off, and you ought to see it in a couple days. So if you thought it was informative, subscribe to the video if you're subscribed to the channel, if you would, and like this and tell me what you think. And if you got any other repairs that you'd like to see, like this fellow did, you can send them in and I'll make a YouTube video out of it and everybody will understand what's going on. So again, thanks for watching, and let's see your scores go low.